Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be reviewing The Wolfman from 1941. After Universal Monster's success of horror movies in the 1930s, Universal started off the 1940s with a bang with The Wolfman. Werewolf movies are one of my favorite horror subgenres in horror movies. This is my favorite werewolf movie. Also, I love Dog Soldiers and American Werewolf in London, The Howling, Teen Wolf. That is a horror comedy coming of age film, but I still love that movie. Unlike Frankenstein and Dracula and the Invisible Man were based on books, The Wolfman is an original story and it's not based on a book. Before this movie, 6 years prior, Universal made another werewolf movie called Werewolf of London in 1935. Last year I rewatched that movie for the first time since I was a little kid, and honestly I thought it was okay. I'm not saying it's bad or I hate it. I just didn't really care or like it as much or find that interesting or memorable compared to this movie. I'm honestly not sure what the first werewolf movie was. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments what the first werewolf movie was. You all know that Frankenstein is my favorite Universal monster movie. This movie is between my second or third favorite Universal monster movies, right up there with Frankenstein and Dracula. The Wolfman was directed by George Wagner, who also produced the film. It was written by Kurt Zodmick. The movie stars Lon Chaney Jr., Evelyn Ankers, Maria Oskponskaya, if I'm saying her name right, sorry if I said it wrong, Bela Lugosi, Patrick Knowles, and Ralph Bellamy, who you all know played one of the Duke brothers in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Claude Rains, and Warren Williams. The Wolfman is about Lawrence Talbot who comes home to visit his father after the death of his brother. While visiting home, Larry meets a woman named Gwen who works at an antique store. Larry kills a werewolf only to find out he was a man he killed and was a gypsy. Maleva, the mother, Bela, who Larry killed, explains to Larry his son was a werewolf and that the curse is passed down onto him after he was bitten. You know what time it is? It's that time when I talk about my DVD/Blu-ray collection of the Universal Monsters. The first time I saw The Wolfman was on this DVD right here. I love the artwork to this DVD of The Wolfman. It's pretty cool. Again, sorry about the glare Sorry about that. And of course, I mentioned before in the mid-2000s, it came out with its own Universal Monster Wolfman collection, despite that the Wolfman did not have any direct sequels except for crossovers. In this, it has Werewolf of London, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which is a semi-sequel, which I'm going to talk about later, and She-Wolf of London, which, I don't know, I haven't seen that in a long time. Maybe I did, but I just don't remember it so well. Not that I didn't hate or like it, just when you haven't seen something in a long time, it's hard to remember certain things like that. And of course, 2021, the Blu-ray collection. Unlike Dracula, the Mummy, and the Invisible Man monsters that love to kill, the Wolfman is a regular guy who doesn't want to kill anyone, but he has no choice when he turns into the Wolfman. Lawrence Talbot is a sad, tragic character. The Wolfman is the most sympathetic, misunderstood out of all the Universal monster characters. The Wolfman is the most interesting character art of all the Universal monster characters. Lawrence Talbot wanted a normal life and to be a normal person. Lon Chaney Jr. is the son of silent movie star Lon Chaney Sr., who was known as Man of 1,000 Faces. Lon Chaney Jr. does an amazing, great, spectacular job in this movie. When Lawrence turns into the werewolf, the guilt on his face says it all how much he does not want to turn into the werewolf, but has no choice. No one believes Larry that he killed a werewolf, not knowing it was a human being as a werewolf he killed. The scene when he pays respect to Bale, the gypsy who he killed, the mother Maleva says a goodbye prayer that is very poetic as she walks away. Larry cries in guilt and sorrow. Just like the Bride of Frankenstein, the blind man and monster melodrama scene, this scene is another great example of not all horror movies being scary and having great drama in a horror movie. The movie gives a hint that Larry and his father, Sir John Talbot, have a strange relationship after the death of his brother. Despite Larry being a werewolf before his curse, he seemed like a charming, nice guy. A little creepy and awkward the way he first meets Gwen. He goes inside her shop asking about earrings that she had in her room. Gwen is unaware about how he knew about those earrings and were not for sale. So instead he buys a cane with a werewolf on the cane. When Larry and Gwen go on their first, semi-first date, he tells her about how he knew about the earrings that he saw in the telescope. She's a little disturbed, but Larry explained that he was just testing it out for another reason, and that he did not mean to spy on her. In a way, it makes Larry look like a peeping Tom. Lon Chaney Jr. and Evelyn Angers have great chemistry together in this movie, but what's crazy is despite playing lovers in this movie, in real life they actually hated each other. The scene when Larry kills the werewolf, it was obviously a dog. Because of the 1940s, they did not have that kind of budget to make two werewolves makeup effects in one movie at that time. Despite that Gwen is engaged, she ends up falling in love with Larry because she loves Larry more than her fiancé. We also feel bad for Gwen how that she feels like responsible and guilty for the death of her friend. Her mother blames her for the accident, but unfortunately, it really is not her fault of what happened to her best friend that was killed by the werewolf. Originally, Universal almost wanted to make this movie more psychological, where the werewolf was all in his head and did not happen. That could have been interesting, but honestly, I'm glad they did not go in that direction. Because if they went in that direction, we would not have the great Jack Pierce werewolf makeup effects in this movie. Speaking of Jack Pierce, this is probably the best makeup effects done by Jack Pierce, and it holds up very well to this day. The Wolfman makeup is cool and impressive. Even though I love this movie, but I'll admit, there is only like one minor complaint, one minor flaw that's very minor, it's not that big of a deal. We did not get to see a werewolf transformation scene in this movie, because this is the 1940s. At that time, they didn't have the technology and the advanced resources like they have now these days. We only see the feet transformation, that's about it. Not like other feature werewolf films where you had like Rick Baker's special effects in American Werewolf in London, The Howling, or like that scene in Trick or Treat from 2007 with the werewolf transformation scene. The 90s Beethoven film with Charles Grodin was my first intro to the Wolfman. The dog Beethoven sneaks in the house and watches TV, and they have the Wolfman on. They're showing the transformation scene of the feed. Then it cuts to the Wolfman, the spooky atmosphere gothic cemetery at night. This movie is the best creepy foggy atmosphere in the Universal monster movie that still hold up to this day. I love when we see the Wolfman like walking through the fog and the creepy atmosphere at night on the full moon. The Wolfman is hunting through his prey to kill. When Larry wakes up after the first full moon becoming a werewolf, he finds the footprints and cleans them up, makes sure the cop does not suspect that he's the werewolf. When Larry and his father go to church, Larry enters, he feels uncomfortable. Everyone looks at him because of knowing he killed a man. Larry leaves the church not feeling welcome because of his guilt and sins and crimes he committed, murdering innocent people that he did not want to kill but had no choice when he became the werewolf. This is the last best classic of the Universal monster movies of the 40s until The Creature from the Black Lagoon in the 1950s. After this movie, Universal went downhill with their sequels to the monsters were hit or miss in the 40s. Unlike Dracula and Frankenstein that had sequels, the Wolfman never got his official standalone sequels, even though he had appearances and crossovers with Frankenstein's monster and Dracula. Whereas Frankenstein meets the Wolfman as a semi-sequel to the Wolfman to a certain degree until the monster shows up. It's very similar how like the Ed Norton 2008 Incredible Hulk film never got a sequel to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that's a completely different story. The end of the movie when Claude Rain kills his son Larry, it's another example of good versus evil. In the 60s, Hammer made their own version of The Wolfman, but it's not really a remake. It's called The Curse of the Werewolf. They really made that movie its own rather than being a remake to The Wolfman when you think about it. In 2010, Universal remade The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, and Emily Blunt. I'll admit, I haven't seen this film in like almost 10 years, since 2010. I didn't see it in the movie theaters when it came out. I saw it like a few months later, renting on Netflix, watching with my dad and my friends. And I'll be honest, I really was not that impressed with it. I didn't really like it that much. I did not think that Benicio del Toro was very likable, sympathetic, or very interesting compared to Lon Chaney Jr.'s performance in the original Wolfman. I did like the visuals of the film, that was about it, but the rest of the film was just very blah and just not good to me. One thing I've noticed in like recent years, the film seems to have like not a cult following, it has like a fan following in recent years. But unfortunately, I'm not part of that fan following. The film seems to be either liked or disliked by some people, depending on like what your interest is or what you really want to see out of that movie. To me, it's a movie I've never had any interest or desire to like rewatch anytime soon desperately. If I'm gonna watch The Wolfman, I'm gonna watch this movie. So that was my review of The Wolfman. Hope you liked the video. Please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get the latest updates on my YouTube channel, and stay tuned for more to come.